Alright, so now we're going to get into routing. Alright, we want to be able to switch between the home component and the about component using this navigation. Alright, now routing has changed quite a bit since the first version of Angular 2 came out, since the alpha. And if you find yourself being confused and it's not working, you might want to take a look at the documentation to see if anything's changed. Alright, that'll tell you exactly what to do, and it should be very similar to what we're going to do now. Okay, but hopefully nothing's changed and it's still the same. Alright, now if we look at package.json, you can see that the version of the router that we're using now is 3.0 beta.1. Okay, so you might want to take a look and see what version you're using. There's also a deprecated version available, but we're not going to get into that because that's not even going to be available much longer. Alright, so what we're going to do is you could go through this documentation in addition to this video if you want to really understand it even more. But first thing we need to do is just add this base tag to our index.html file. And we're going to put that right under the opening body tag. And that's basically telling the system what we want to use for our root route, which is going to be /. Alright, and then the next thing we want to do is inside the app folder, we're going to create a new file and save it as app.routes.ts. Alright, this is where all of our main routes will go. So we need to import a couple things. We're going to say import provide router and also router config. And those are going to come from Angular/router. Alright, so we're going to bring the router in, and then down here we're going to create a variable called routes, and we're going to say router config equals, and then this will be an array, and this is where we want to set our routes up. Okay, I'm not going to do it yet because we still have other stuff to do. And then we need to just export we'll say export constant app router providers, and we're going to set that to a set of brackets, and then in here we want to say provide router and just surround routes. Okay, so that's all we have to do aside from setting our actual routes up here. And then any component that we're going to route to, we need to also import. Alright, but let's just save that for now. Now we need to take this app router providers and we're going to go to main.ts and we're going to import that. So say import app router providers, and that's going to be from that app.routes file. Actually, let's do /app.routes, and then we need to include that down here in our bootstrap function. We're going to put in a second parameter and just pass in that app router providers. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's go ahead and save that. So now let's go back to the app routes file, and up here we'll add our first route. So we're basically going to provide two things here. We're going to provide a path, and if we want to assign a route to the home page, then we just need just blank. Okay, we'll leave it as a blank set of quotes. Alright, and then the next thing we want to do is component, and let's set that to home component. Alright, and then the next one is going to be path, and this time we want the about. Let's set component to about component. Now in order to use these we have to bring them in, so let's go ahead and import. So that'll be from dot slash components slash pages slash home dot component. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy that, and then we want to also include the about component. Alright, then what we want to do is go to our app.component.ts file, and we have to import the router directives here. And that's going to be from Angular slash router, and then we just have to add it to the directives down here. Okay, then we'll go ahead and save that. Now what we're going to do is go to our, actually in this file, we're going to take away this home, because we don't want to just embed the home component. We want to put in a router outlet. So we want to say router dash outlet. Okay, save that. And now that should do it. Let's go to our site and reload. Okay, no errors. You can see it's displaying the home page. Now, if I click about, that's not going to do anything because we haven't added the actual link to the nav bar. So let's do that. Now, in order to use routes in the nav bar, we have to import the router. So let's go to navbar component TS. And what we need is the router directives. And we just need to add that here. Alright, we'll save that, and then let's go to the HTML for the nav bar. And what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the href, and we're going to put in router link, and let's set that to slash, and then we're also going to have a router link active attribute, and let's set that to active. Okay, then we want the same attributes for about, so I'm just going to copy that, and this time we're going to go to slash about. We'll save that, and now you can see we can switch through the home and the about component. Now notice we're getting these messages. These aren't their warnings. It still works fine, but it's telling us that the home component and the about component are not found in the precompile array. To ensure all components referred to by router config are compiled, you must add about component to the precompile array of your application. This will be required in future releases. Okay, so it's not required now, but it's good to get in the hang of it because it will be required. So all we have to do for this is really easy. We're going to go to our app component TS, and then we're just going to add to our decorator here precompile. Okay, and then we have to just set some brackets, and then let's put in home component and about component. Save that, and now you can see if we switch back and forth, it's fine, and we're not getting that warning down here. Alright, so that's how you set up the router. And that's going to be it for this project. It was very, very simple. We don't get too much functionality, but I think we really highlighted what's involved in creating an Angular 2 application. Okay, so in the next project we'll get a little deeper and we'll look at some more of the features of Angular 2.